I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Wanted to do yet another blog on the importance of buying quality when you buy your home. And again, lately in the news, there has been a number of stories on the TV, in the newspapers, about several developments in downtown Vancouver that were sold as pre-sales about 3 years ago that have now, in the last 6 months, gotten occupancy and people are starting to move into them. And they're discovering a lot of defects in the build quality and the finishings of these units. And these units were not cheap. These were, upwards of $1,000, $1,200 a square foot. Now, I'm not giving away any secrets because it's been all over the news. One of these buildings is the Telus Garden development on Seymour Street. A lot of people are complaining about slipshod work, opening up kitchen cabinets and the doors falling off, handles breaking, flooring not being installed properly. They've had a lot of plumbing issues, apparently, pipes that have been bursting. From what I read, it's the nature of the business these days. They're pre-selling these condos. The market is on a tear here. The builders are in a hurry to get these developments finished, close on them, and get the money. But it's been in the media quite a bit. Now, this goes back to several blogs I've done over the years here on the importance of buying quality. A couple of months ago, I blogged about pretty much a brand new building in Chinatown that was selling for over $1,000 a square foot that didn't have a proper in-suite laundry setup. The dryers didn't vent outside, and they were using these combination washer-dryer Euro units. Now, that's okay for a 40-year-old wood frame building out in Richmond or Burnaby that you're paying $350 a square foot for, but not at $1,100 a square foot in a pretty much brand new concrete building. That is, inexcusable, in my opinion, for what you're paying for. So, it goes back to an old adage, and I blogged about it many times here. Pay up for quality. The old Warren Buffett quote, I always like to use Warren's quotes. He used to say that it's better to pay a fair price for a wonderful company than pay a wonderful price for a fair company. And I would tell my clients that, you want to step up and pay for a little bit better location, a little bit better finishings, but the main thing is the location, the neighborhood that you're buying into, the street that it's on, and the location of that unit itself. But I tour some of these newer developments, some of these pre-sale condos that have come online in the last couple years. And as a realtor, I've got a little bit more of a critical eye, but I can pick up on these things, and I think a lot of buyers can as well. Everything's just little things from how the paint is put on there, how the flooring is installed. I look at things, for instance, like the doors, the interior doors. A lot of these units have got hollow core doors going into the bedrooms and the other rooms. You'll tour a unit that's a little nicer finished. It might sell for a little more, but they're using hollow core doors, better finishings, better fixtures. And these things don't even cost that much more for the quality. The difference between a hollow core bedroom door and a solid core door is about $40. You've got 4 doors in the unit, you're spending another couple $100 to upgrade to a far superior finishing. So be careful with this, and I blogged about too with locations, and the location of some of these new developments have been coming online over the last 5 or 6 years. I had said that, we ran out of grade A locations in downtown Vancouver about 10 years ago for the most part. There's still some redevelopment that can be done. We've moved on and have been building on B locations now for the last 15 years, and we're pretty much exhausted a lot of those too, a few left. Now we're getting into C, D, and just downright E dog locations, in my opinion, where the building is sandwiched between the on-ramp and off-ramp of a major bridge with traffic and sirens and trucks gearing down. These are not quality units. Now, in a market like what we've had these last 3 or 4 years, there is a buyer for everything. As one of my colleagues says, there's a buyer for everything, otherwise we'd never have homes on Knight Street. And, everything is selling right now. But when a market turns, and eventually it will, eventually this market is going to cool. It's going to start go from a seller's market to more of a balanced market for a while, and eventually dip into a buyer's market. In this market, everything sells, even the dogs. But when a market gets more balanced, and God forbid goes into a buyer's market, these units are tough to sell. These inferior, poor workmanship, poor location units are going to languish, and you're going to have to keep slashing the prices. And whether you're buying that as a principal residence or even as buying as an investment property, because remember, your tenancy turnover is going to be much higher in these units as well. You know, your tenant is going to get in there, and 6 months later he's going to call you and say, I can't stand the street noise anymore, I'm out of here, or the place is falling apart. So you want to have, you know, whether it's principal residence or an investment property, step up to the plate, and if you have to, spend a little bit more money for a quality unit. But be careful out there. It's buyer beware. Some of the workmanship that's going on now, I think in a lot of these pre-sales and some of the ones that have just hit, is less than stellar. And that's why, for the most part, other than a few little windows over the last 15 years where pre-sales did make sense, these days, I've told people, you know, to maybe stay away from pre-sales for now until further notice. You're paying a premium price for it, and of course, I've blogged about it many times. You know, you're buying a unit off a brochure. You have no idea what that unit's going to be like until it's finished 3 years later and you move into it. And it's why I suggest you look at tangible product. Tangible product, we can go in, we can open the cabinets, we can look at the appliances, we can flush the toilet, we can go downstairs to the parkade and have a look at where the parking space is and how big it is. That was another thing that's just been in the news lately about some people that bought into a condo building here. It's in a couple of different buildings, and their parking space is just horrendous. It's got ductwork that runs across the back of it, so they can't put their truck in or car into it and back into it. It's too low, and the parking spaces are getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and they're up against a pole. They can't open the door. So these things, you don't know how these parking spaces are going to look until the building's finished. So you are taking a big chance with this when you buy pre-sale. Now, eventually, maybe the market will turn where pre-sales will make sense again, where they're giving you an incentive to buy a pre-sale. In the old days, pre-sales used to sell below what tangible product did, and for good reason. It's not going to be built for 3 years. You're basing it off a brochure. It was their way of selling the units, giving you a discount on them in turn for enticing you to buy it and not to be able to have an actual tangible product for 3 years. You know, somewhere along the way 10 years ago, the script completely flipped, and they started marketing pre-sale condos at or even above, in a lot of cases, what tangible product was at, which in my opinion is crazy. Not to mention the fact you've got to pay the 5% GST on a pre-sale that you don't on tangible product. So one more final warning there to people: be careful out there, buyer beware. I would stick with tangible product, and I would also, you know, be keeping a critical eye on what you're buying and step up to buy a little bit better quality. If you have to pay another 5% of it for a little bit better location, both where the building is as well as the unit itself within the building, you're not above the parkade entrance with the gate going up every 2 minutes. Step up and buy quality. You will do far better in appreciation over time as opposed to buying a less desirable unit. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, I'll see you next week.